So today we'll discuss Entra ID, but previously it's called as Azure AD, but now Azure bring all these into Entra ID family. Say now Entra ID can use even for Office 365 for those also. With the Intune also we can use. Entra ID is not only for the Azure. Now, like we can use for Office 365 or Intune, or even with the other apps also we can integrate. Okay, so then like what Entra ID is, it's an IAM solution from the Microsoft. What is the meaning of IAM? Identity and access management. Identity and access management is possible with the Entra ID. So here we can use like a creation of users or similar kind of or identical kind of users. We can group them or we can give the permissions, access, all these we can give by using the Entra ID. By using the Entra ID. So what are the features we can provide is single sign-on of our applications. So we can provide the single sign-on, multi-factor authentication. Means user may have one authenticator app or second level of authentication also we are going to provide. Conditional access also. So we'll discuss some conditional access policies. The policies we can provide to the users or applications for the security purpose, device management, identity protection, and even if you have the applications, B2B and B2C applications like authentications, authorizations also we can integrate. Okay, so these are the features Entra ID is providing. Then here we have like a tenant. Like for every organization, we have an Entra ID, then user, okay, then group, then application. We can register our applications also, and we can set the permission boundaries and permissions to the users by giving the roles. Okay, then directory. Directory is nothing but a tenant kind of thing. Okay, so now in the Entra Admin Center, we can create the users, groups. Even when we want to go for Azure ABD also, we'll create the users. All this we are going to define from the Entra ID we are going to define. Okay, then authentication and access control. Like in the identity, we can provide MFA also. So what is the meaning of MFA? Multi-factor authentication. For the users, we can enable the multi-factor authentication also for the higher level of security. For the users to whom we have more users or more permissions we have, for that we can enable multi-factor authentication we can enable. Okay, so then we will have a app like maybe authenticator app that's from that we are going to log in. Okay, then what is the conditional access is we can define the rules. So suppose for example the user conditions like maybe need to meet like this location or device platform or application platform. Okay, so the access controls like with MFA itself that user need to come. So these kind of compliances we are going to keep. Okay, so that means if the user is connecting from a untrusted network assume, then definitely what I want is MFA need to be used. MFA need to be there. If the user doesn't have the MFA, I don't want to give the access. That means what is the condition I'm keeping there? Say I want MFA when the user is accessing Office 365 or if the all the device which device the user is having, if it doesn't have the complaints as per my company policy, I want to block the access. Okay, otherwise maybe SharePoint kind of systems, all these okay, but this comes under Entra ID. We required licenses, all these we need to do. Okay, that kind of compliance kind of access base also we can provide. Then here we can enable SSO also. Okay, so single sign-on also we can give, and risky sign-ons, auditing also we can do. Then we can give a one-time kind of access or time-based access also we can give. Okay, so these all like we can perform from the Entra ID. And what we can do is we have Azure AD Connect. With Azure AD Connect, we can synchronize even with your AD local users also. So we need to install Azure AD Connect software need to be installed on your local laptop. So with that, we can synchronize our local AD also. With your Entra ID, we can synchronize all the local users again. Say suppose that enterprise may have some thousands of users, all those again we no need to create on the Entra ID. By using Azure AD Connect, we can synchronize. Say in the Citrix environment, if you want to use like MCS want to use like Azure AD, all these, then this is one of the prerequisite. Okay, so we need to have Azure AD connect on our local AD, and this domain we need to synchronize with the Entra ID. Then that MCS catalog vision which you are creating, that should be part of this domain. Like what is the synchronized domain we have, so that we need to add. Okay, so then, so what are the use cases is like for all the applications single sign-on or B2B different applications access also we want to provide privileged access or one-time access, guest access, and access policies, role-based access to the Azure services, conditional access. These all we can provide. Okay, so now here we can use like maybe CLI or Bash also to create the users or from the PowerShell or GUI wise, Terraform wise, all these also we can create. These resources we are going to create. Then coming to core components. So what is the tenant is a dedicated trusted instance, like our mostly for our one organization, we are creating one tenant, and every tenant will have one tenant ID. When we have in the free subscription also, one tenant ID tenant would be already created. Then in the tenant, we are going to create the users. Okay, so then like who want to access our resources for that, we need to create the users. Okay, so then here we have two types of users. Cloud only users we can create in the Entra ID. Second one is like if you use Azure AD Connect, those users have been synchronized from your local on-premises AD to those users have been synchronized. Then for the user management, anyhow in the AD also we are creating the groups, identical kind of users, better to create as the groups. Okay, so then here we have two types of groups, security groups for the permissions for that, all those. Then we have Microsoft 365 groups. Then applications, like we can integrate applications with the Entra ID. Okay, so that's we are going to give permissions also, single sign-on, all those also we can give. Okay, then RBAC, like we have what is the meaning of RBAC is in the IAM. RBAC means role-based access control. Depends upon the roles. We are giving the permissions to the users. So here we have the different type of user roles we have. Global administrator, user administrator, application administrator. Like this, we can define the permissions or we can create our own custom rules and permissions we can assign to the users. Just like in the AD, we have the different domain level, enterprise level like this. Then these are the different type of RBAC roles we have. Okay, so then already we discussed, right? What is the meaning of conditional access? Always one of the best practices is conditional access. We need to provide. Okay, so then identity protection. Say suppose if any risky users are connecting, They have their own intelligent kind of AI machine learning kind of identification, threat detection, protection, and it's going to protect our accounts also. And mostly we are going to give either multi-factor authentication, password or passwordless apps also we are going to provide. And definitely we can integrate with our B2B, B2C applications also. Federation kind of services also we need to provide. Okay, so then which devices? Like like even we can use integration with the Intune also we can do with the Azure AD. Okay, Azure AD like our company owned devices like AVD, all these also comes under our like uh, Azure AD itself or hybrid kind of things. Or in the hybrid cloud also we have a AD connector, and with that we are connecting or bring your own device also. Those have been joined to our domain for the privileged kind of things. Okay, but the privilege, I think it's required. We have different license models. By default, we are not getting the privilege model. What are the different? By default, we are using is Entra ID free. We are using by default. We are using Entra ID free, where we can manage the group management, on-premises direct synchronization, basic reports we can generate. Okay, self-service password kind of changes are allowed. So then, single sign-on access for the like a basic identity we can do with the free license. Then we have the next level of license we have is Entra ID P1 with Entra ID P1. In the Entra ID P1, like Azure is charging around $6 per user. Okay, so in the P1 for the enterprises, they're charging around $6 per user. Okay, so then like here we are going to get a hybrid kind of administration. Dynamically we can create based on the conditions groups, then identity manager, some conditional access policies. These all comes under P1. Okay, so then in the P2, they're charging around $9. In the P2, they're going to give privileged identity management also. Okay, so privileged identity management, they're giving in the P2 license. Okay, then higher level is Entra Suite. Okay, so what are the licenses we have here? So by default, we have Entra ID free, we have Entra ID P1, Entra ID P2, Entra ID, Entra like a suite. So these all the license models are available from Entra ID. So in your job, you don't tell free, maybe P2 or Entra suite, you can tell you are using in your job. Okay, from the Intra Admin Center we can purchase, or we can contact the Microsoft sales team also would be coming. So with that, our company will purchase these licenses. Okay, so now here we can create, say, Entra ID, like we can create our own, like a tenant account we can choose, and our organization name, domain name. So with this, we are going to create a tenant. Once you create the tenant, you can create the users and all these also, and we can uh, provide different type of groups, like maybe for ABD also we can create the groups like a sales team or HR team, IT team. Like this here, we are going to create the groups, and we'll add the users to the groups. And one of the best practices is in the production, we need to enable multi-factor authentication also. So we need to provide the multi-factor authentication. We need to provide to that specific user. Then with the authenticator app itself, that user is going to log in. Okay, then for the free account also, for the free license model also, we have self-service password reset. That means we are giving the option the user can reset his password option also. Okay, so then we're going to enable this password option also. And what we need to do is we can create one app, and that app we need to like provide access. All those also we will create. Then we have a conditional access policy. Like I don't want to give the access to the device maybe for specific resource. So now for this, I need to in the production conditional policy, I'm going to create a policy like if the user coming from some locations or MFA, okay, with this, like I'm going to set up the permissions. In the conditions, I need to set the location, user platforms, these all I need to define. Okay, so from this itself, I need to give the permissions. Okay, so then with the on-premises also, you try to install Azure AD Connect on your on-premises server, and with that we can synchronize all the users to Azure AD itself. We can synchronize also to the Azure AD. We can synchronize. Okay, so then here we can give that to the like a different roles also. We can give like a different roles by default we are getting some users like a global admin like this, but our own roles and privileges also we can give the custom kind of permissions also we can create. And once we log into this, we can in the monitoring we can check the what are the user permissions, administrative tasks. So this kind of auditing also can be enforced. All these auditing also can be enforced to the users. Okay, so these all like from the Entra ID. We'll do these all these Entra ID permissions will do. Then, some of the best practices what we need to follow in the Entra ID. So the best practices is always we need to apply MFA for all the users. At least to the users we have more privileges. Best practices to all the users. Otherwise, at least to all the users or especially admins or users having more privileges. For them, better to give more MFA need to be enabled. And definitely we need to have the conditional access to avoid unauthorized access and the multiple logins or maybe company policies I want to enforce. Based on that, I'm going to give the multi-factor authentication or location-wise or device compliance. Based on that, better to give the conditional access. Okay. And if the users having any risky kind of thing or the devices are risky, then better to identify those kind of anomalies of threat protection and block those kind of access. Okay, so then just in time, like this is the P2 kind of license model. In this, we are getting privileged identity management, assign least privileges itself, and we are going to for every user, don't give global admin. Always in the cloud or in the infrastructure level or IT practices level, always give the users least privileges itself. If the user want more permissions, at that moment only give. Unnecessarily don't give more privileges to the users. So that is one of the best practice we need to follow. Okay, so then here we need to enable identity protection also. So if you enable this, using the machine learning and AI tools, Azure is going to Entra ID is going to identify that kind of risk is something if there is some risk is identified by Microsoft, they'll use some intelligent techniques and they will block or prevent that access also. This always is recommended to enable that identify protection also, identify the protection also, and always maybe at least 1 week better to audit the logs and what users are operating, any like unnecessary things they're doing. This kind of auditing also is one of the best practices we need to follow. Okay, so this is also we need to follow in our thing. Then access automatically review those access. Always give the least privileges. Okay, so single sign-on kind of things also is better to give for the user's experience. Okay, we can like whenever we are using B2B kind of thing, definitely we need to use like MFA. Then for the application guest access also, the from the application that B2B application level itself, we are going to give guest access also. Each and every time we can't create some thousands of users may be accessing that. We need to use the entitled management, self-register kind of things also you can give for the applications level. Okay, so then what is Azure AD Connect is doing? If you have on-premises Azure, we have, sorry, we have AD that we can link with our Entra ID, we can link it. Okay, so then we can configure the like some lifecycle workflows also where we can automate the workflow of permissions, granting all these also. Then reviews, definitely we need to review and auditing need to be done. Then here already how to give the conditional access. Like we need to define the like Entra ID admin center protection. Here itself normally will enable MFA also, but here we need to create a policy. So in this we are giving. So my condition is all users should have MFA. Otherwise, I don't want to allow to log in. Then need to select users. All users are groups we are selecting. Then here we need to choose like which apps and all this. Then I'm going to give the condition is say here sign in risk medium or high device platform, which platform is supported, locations or IPs or countries, then client apps like which apps we are going to use. All these we are going to give the permissions. Okay, so then I'm going to like enable this policy. So with this conditional policy, what is going to happen is like depends upon the conditions we have given the client devices, or their country, regions, or IPs. Only from those itself they're going to access the resources. It's always better to enforce on our enterprise level. Okay, so then like here maybe some troubleshooting steps we will discuss. Like we have a user log on, like user is facing or complaining is not able to log into his application or with Azure portal, something user not found or existing. We need to check whether that user account is locked or user is there or not with that user, any typo, or maybe we have account is blocked or locked. Is that okay? So try to reset the password. Or user is entering the incorrect password, maybe reset the password. Or like a like a user can password reset options, or sometimes user is we have the policy MFA is mandatory, but user is not getting that MFA password, or like some issue with this app or some internet settings with this is not getting the like passwords, all those, or authenticator cache or something is also causing the problem. Authenticator app is not receiving that OTP kind of thing. These all we need to troubleshoot. Okay, so then like even like we would be getting um, mm, like a browser session we have sign in. It's always asking for the MFA. Okay, so that's also one of the problem we would be getting. And sync wise, like we have new users have been added into a local AD, but those are not synchronizing. So that's also we need to check. Or while syncing, we may get sometimes duplicate users or those also we need to remove that from the Azure Entra ID and we need to resync them. Okay. And we created one application, those users are not able to log in. So this is also we need to check that audit logs, monitoring, and why that user is not able to log in. Any conditional access is restricting for that user to access that app, what device the user is accessing, which location the user is connecting. Okay, so these all the checks you need to do. Otherwise, if it is restricted from the conditional policy, we need to explain that to the user also. Okay, so then sometimes our app will generate some tokens for the single time access, privileged access. Those tokens also is not working. These kind of issues also we need to like uh, troubleshoot. Okay, so definitely like auditing conditions, checking evaluation of the conditions, all these we need to go through. Okay, so then diagnose the user logs and auditing need to be performed. These all we need to do. Coming back finally, like we want to use Azure AVD we want to use. For that, what are the permissions or basic things we required is we definitely will have an Azure subscription we have already, and we need to have the Entra ID center and all these also we will have access. Then to create and manage Entra ID, first user should have the global administrator role we required. Global administrator role we required. Okay, then we can have a custom domain also. Saying the custom domain like our company domain, all that also will create. Okay, then tenants, users, all this we need to do. Okay, so then directive sync if you want with the authenticator app, this all we are going to create. Okay, app registration, all this also will do. Okay, so then we need to use Azure AVD wise also. We are going to use Entra ID, and for Intune also we are going to use, and later with the sync with Citrix wise also we required Entra ID is mandatory if you want to use Azure as your platform. Okay, these all like we required to apply. The Azure AD, we can install on a VM also. We can install Azure AD domain services, but Azure always not recommend to install on the VM. Azure not Azure Active Directory is not recommended to install on the Azure VMs. But if you want to create your own domain also, we can do, but that's not a best practice to do that. Okay. So these all the lab uh, like uh, 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 while creating the Azure AVD, will create all these also with that Azure AVD wise will discuss. Okay, so this week try to finish more on the Azure storage accounts, Azure load balancers, application gateway, explore traffic manager, front door. All these indirectly or directly we are using from Azure AV device because we are using front door, traffic manager or load balancers, then Entra ID, storage accounts. All these directly or indirectly we are integrated with Azure AVD. Okay, Azure monitor. All these we are going to use while working with Azure AVD. Will come to again these all the scenarios. Okay, so Monday onwards, I'll start with the Azure AVD. Will discuss more detailed and more lab also. While doing that lab, indirectly will learn all these services also. Okay. Yeah. Any doubts?
You can stop the recording, sir.